Dr. Ezbon, welcome to this first edition of interview with South Sudan Mining Journal with you in your capacity as the technical advisor at the Ministry of Mining.
Thank you very much. I am happy with this opportunity to talk about mining, especially in South Sudan, so that the audience can know something actually, what it is, and what will be the value into the country.
All right, you have been at the ministry for decades, from serving as the undersecretary and now the technical advisor. Uh, can you tell us about your, career path? What have been some of the, challenges along your way until this time?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to give a brief outline about myself so that you know who I am and the journey that I took right from primary school up to the position I'm holding now. I'm from Yei district. I first studied in my village before going to Juba 1 Middle School. That was in 1967 to 1961. Sorry, 57 to 61. And then I went to Rumbek where I met a lot of South Sudanese there. Then because of the war, which started in 1962, I found myself as a refugee in Uganda, stayed without school for a long time. Then, fortunately enough, some good Samaritans sponsored me to study for my O level and the A level in Uganda. Then I entered Makerere University. Soon after graduation, I went to work in a mine, which was doing work on the surface as well as underground because I studied geology in the university. Then after that, I came back to my country in 1979 when Uganda fell into problems. And then that was another journey. I worked in Abjobra oil field for some time before working in Kapoita with a Belgian mineral exploration project. Then I was sponsored to go to Europe, particularly Belgium, for my master's and the PhD. And then when I came back, remember 1990, 1992, the South was almost all in fire. So I ended working in Khartoum for about 17 years in the Ministry of Mining, where I became a director of mineral exploration when Sudan was one. In my capacity, I came to the South twice. Once when somebody, a minister called Albino Akol, he brought me from the north to the south to advise the ministry on this technical work, exploration, mining, this and that. Then the rest is a history. In 2011, I shifted to the south, and then later I was made undersecretary. That was when, understand, the oil price was going down, and then the people were wondering how about minerals? And then they thought the minerals sector should be handled by somebody with a lot of experience. And that's how they got me in here. Since 2013 up to 2022, I worked as undersecretary. And then later, I was made the technical advisor, where I'm now in front of you.
That was quite a long way coming.
You
Since your spell at the ministry, for almost more than 2 decades, to say the least, the country still has uh, a policy that does not seem to attract uh, investors easily, especially in the mining sector. Does it bother you that for several years that you have been at the ministry, the country still doesn't have mining activities taking place?
Sure, there were already some mining work done, but when I started being undersecretary, first of all, my work was to see the capacity of the people who were there and then what they were doing. And then also, mining is something that's capital intensive. It cannot be done by any country in Africa. Only the investors have to come from outside. We try to attract investors by advertising the mining opportunities in South Sudan. And that has been through attending conferences, regional conferences in Africa here, and then international conferences, and presenting papers. I particularly have presented papers in several places. In Australia in 2013, in London, in what they call London Africa Mining Summit twice, in Russia, in India, in South Africa, in Zambia, in Uganda, in Tanzania, and so on. Several places that I present papers. Sometimes I took some of the senior staff. My idea was that I thank God that somehow experienced this field, but there'll be a time when some of the young people must come up. For example, being an undersecretary, I've been working with 3 out of 5 director generals here who were my students in the university. I used to lecture in Juba University. So 3 of the director generals now of mineral development, technical services, Aliga, and geological survey, Agnes Sapana. These were my students in the university. So I'm happy that I work with them. And that's why when I go out to present a paper, I take them along so that they see the atmosphere, because in those conferences, you meet some of the well-learned people in this field, and the way they present, the way people ask, and so on. So I think this is how I've been developing these young people, so that eventually when I'm out, they will take over, and South Sudan will have investors in this country.
Uh, Talking about technology, what technological advancements do you think the government has made as far as uh, the mining sector is concerned?
Uh, Mining sector or mining has to go through stages. First of all, you have to do the mapping, geological mapping. You have to do the geological mapping, and you take teams to the field to collect samples, to analyze using 4 to 5 different types of machines for getting the results. And then you see where you can best mine. It's not a one stage, it's a process which is very long. And this is what we've been trying to do. We plan what to do in several places, but because of poor funding of the ministry, we did field work in a few places. For example, in Lebanon, in Capoeira for gold, and the marble, which is used for producing cement, and then some other parts, like in northern Bahr Ghazal, we send a team there. In Yei, we send a team to study the iron ore, which is occurring as a cap rock in the higher grounds. The technology is the same: collecting samples, preparing them, analyzing, and then, of course, not all the area that you work in is potentially good for mining. We sort out through the results, And then, of course, drilling later, but we have not reached that stage. The mandate of the ministry is to collect mineral information which can be used by investors so that they make informed decisions. So that any investor, when they come here, immediately they see the results and they decide what mineral to explore, when and how, and so on. Because starting from crash will take them time, and they don't like. All over the world, this is what they need. They need some initial information before they decide to invest.
Okay, in terms of future prospects, where do you see the country's mining sector? Let's say in 10 years from now.
Oh, that's a very good question because actually, uh, we know actually that our country is very rich in minerals. So rich in that, despite, it's not a secret, you have some instabilities and so on, wars here, there, and so on. For example, the war of 2013, and then again repeated in 2016. These scare investors from our country. But because our country is very rich in minerals, very, very rich, one of the richest actually in Africa. As I told you, I worked in Uganda, I worked in the North Sudan, and I visited many African countries which have got some mines. But I still see that our country is very rich in minerals which are not yet exploited. So, for example, now, the neighboring countries, Zaire, there's a huge gold mine in Zaire, close to the border with South Sudan. The mine is called Kilomoto. And that gold is the one extending up to Kabengere, south of Yei. Even in Ethiopia also, there's a gold mine there which is extending into uh, eastern Equatoria. So potentially, that's why actually companies are coming. So we believe if our country is steady and the companies come to continue working, for example, there's a South African British company called New Kush. We had a conference in 2013, December 2013. They say from their results, they expected that South Sudan gold was to reach the world bank or the world market in 2018. But because of the war, things are delayed a bit. But still, the chances are there. I think without war, companies return because most of them have moved away, but still they retain their concessions. Even 10 years is too much. I think 3 to 5 years, we shall be mining. Especially, we have two types of gold. Primary gold, which is in the hard rocks, and then the secondary gold, which is in the soil and the river gravels. This is the easiest to mine. Uh, some companies actually will encourage them not to spend all the time in doing the exploration for the primary gold. If they see any potential area where they can start mining, they should. So I think, let's say, maybe 3 to 5 years, gold production will start.
Okay, currently we also have more young people coming up, those who are aspiring to be geologists. What can you tell them?
Oh, yeah. Any work, you should love it naturally without thinking of the salary and so on. Okay. If people think of salaries, what they will get out of it and so on, it will not work. As I said earlier, when I started being undersecretary, I looked into the staff and I saw some vacancies and so on. We advertised, and some young people came And some of them are still remaining with us. The others, they just left us because, salaries are low, and especially this day, salaries delay, and so on. That does not motivate people to stay. Okay. Some of them, even when they came, they attended the interview, of course, because they have to be told what they expect, they refused, they didn't come. But those who are motivated, I think they are still with us here, despite the fact that salaries are delaying, maker and so on is there. It's the love for the work and also, I think, love for the country that's keeping people here.
Incredible. So, in terms of, we know the conflict in Sudan has definitely affected the relations between the two countries in terms of uh, mineral development. Uh, when you look at the current context of South Sudan in terms of mineral development, as compared to when the two countries were still together, what differences can you notice?
So I prefer that we stay still as we are because, let's look at cement, for example. We have the raw materials in Kapay, this and marble, this and also we have some in Kajikoji now, which is not yet studied. Uh, when I started work here in 1979, because of my experience when I was working in a mine in Uganda, we were drilling for material for producing cement, and then the samples were analyzed in our mine laboratory. So I came with experience. There was this Klokona, which was exploring for marble in Capoeira. In the meetings, I think people realized that I had some idea about it. So I used to be sent to Khartoum to attend meetings. The group was called Projects Preparation Unit, PPU. That group was to look into the mineral deposit in Sudan and to see those which should be pushed to start producing. That gave me a chance to talk of Capoeira because at that time I had known the reserves in Capoeira and the work which Kolokona had done up to feasibility study. So when I was arguing that Capoeira should be included in the immediate cement production, my colleagues didn't like it because they, outside the meeting they told me North Sudan was producing cement in Rabat, Dorudeb, and so on. If South Sudan produces its own cement, who will buy the cement from the North? So for that matter, I think it's better that we stay alone. We produce our own minerals, whatever it takes, so that also, this work gives employment to the young people. Yeah. If we produce cement from our raw materials here, the young people who need job and so on, they will be trained. So I think still we should not regret breaking away from the no. We should be on our own. We continue, and eventually we'll be okay.
Uh, Personally, what do you aspire? Or we know time is going, years are passing by. One time you'll say, "Oh, I need to rest. I need to go home and have time for my grandchildren. I need to have stories with them. No more work."
Yeah.
What kind of administration would you want to leave behind?
Well, I think first of all, I think I'm grateful for the honor of being made under secretary. I worked smoothly. All the ministers I worked with, I think I enjoyed working with them. And especially visiting countries that I would not have been able to, to go without holding this position. I visited many countries. I think it's only North America, South America that I've not been to. I've been to Europe, I've been to Asia. I've been to Australia, and so on. I think my impression is that I'll eventually go home and play with my kids, knowing that I've done my best in my life. Because now, what I'm living as something very useful is the cadastral system. We explained to the Australians that we need a system which is internationally accepted. We convinced them, and then they gave us this cadastral system, which we use for giving out the concessions and the controlling income and so on, this and that. And then what my regret is that ever since mining has no permanent office block, we've been hiring. We try to push the government to build, but always postponing, wait. We've been hiring till now, we're hiring, and I don't know for how long we shall keep hiring. But there are some companies which are ready to come and help us. China, for example, it was ready to construct an office block and give us a laboratory. But arrangement didn't go through. Also, a Canadian team and so on. These are some of my contacts that and at the moment, we are working with a group called Getty. That one is coming to do the mapping. So if the mapping is done, which I started in my time, that is, I will count it as much. And some other things actually, for example, the mining law. The mining law of South Sudan was drafted when I was away. They contacted me when I was working in the north, this and that, and it was not possible. But eventually, when I came south, I and somebody called Patrick Legay was summoned by a committee in the assembly to give comments on the mining law and so on. After reading, of course, we made some proposals, and they say they were going to the third reading, which was almost going through. So to incorporate our ideas, we'll take them back. So let it go like that, and then so on. But then eventually, here, we all agreed, the senior staff, the president and the secretary, Dr. Cosmos, we assigned him to push the mining law in the Ministry of Justice to include the amendments that we recommend. There are some things which are very funny in the mining law. I think people who finalize the law, they have no idea of exploration or mining and so on. We suggest many things. Eventually, if the new version of the mining law comes out in the way we suggest the recommendation, I think I would claim it as my contribution because of my long experience of how to accelerate the work and how to keep the investors coming, how to have this. There are three groups in this field: the government, the investors, and then the community where the work is. So that one is lacking in the mining law. So we try to improve that so that the work goes smoothly. Because if the community doesn't accept a company, things will not be good. And if the government puts very bad laws and so on, companies will go away. So that will be, if the mining law is really modified according to our suggestion, I will claim it as my contribution.
We hope for the best.
I'll be glad to stay with my grandchildren. I've got a good number of grandchildren. Some are staying with me, others are far away. And I really miss them sometimes when I go out on government duty. Yeah.
So, in terms of relations between the East and the West, in terms of relations between the East and the West, which one has been more cooperative in terms of mining, development? Here we have China. Here we have India. Here we have Russia. Then on the other hand, the United States and other European countries.
Okay, that's really a good question. You know, the West, let's forget America. The British, for example, they ruled us, they were getting things, and so on, without our permission and so on. So I think they would have loved to continue cheating us. The East, which never colonized us, they try to actually work with us. Now, coming to these minerals, for example, we see that the West, which is America and Britain, USA has got only one company working here. And then, of course, Italy, I understand Italians were here some time back. They had 3 concessions. But the East, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, and Australia and so on, they've got, and China. China has got several companies working with us. So I think the East, we better link to them other than to the West.
The West.
Yeah. As I said, when I started work here, I was taken to this Chevron oil exploration company. They were Americans and so on. They were delaying the completion of the exploration work, and which will be followed by start of the oil production. The Americans were purposely delaying. When the Chinese came in, the oil came out. There was a conference I attended in Uganda, which is called the Mineral Wealth of Uganda. East and West, they collided there. Eh? The Americans were blaming the East that they were just moving in with cheap methods, cheap products in the soil. That Africans should be aware that the Chinese, for example, they're coming in with very cheap things, and the future is not all that good. We say we want something that we can comment on, we can modify, other than waiting for somebody who is not coming to enable us get our minerals. Yeah. And I think, I don't know, I'm not a politician, but I think it will be good for our country or our president to look more east than west.
Request.
So,
Okay. Do you have anything else to say before we conclude this interview?
yes, I think I thank God that I'm a bit experienced in this field. Uh, every hour counts when you are working. When, for example, you want to develop your country and so on, every hour, every week, and so on counts. Since we became independent, we should have moved quite a lot, but the world has been pushing us behind. Now, leave that alone. When you come to development projects, you should not hesitate to welcome companies which are ready to come, and then to understand actually, to incorporate their views into our laws, and then to cooperate, so that at the end, we get a win-win result. It will not be good for the country to impose all conditions and so on, this and that. I think that's the only thing that some companies privately tell us, that sometimes the rules are not all that good. I try to develop what I call exploration blocks. Okay, I try to develop that. Uh, the foreign companies or even local companies, they are given the freedom to decide on the size of the block they want at the beginning. Some of them were too greedy. 6,000 square kilometers, that's too big, too big. And then the government came out with 2,500 square kilometers. Again, that's a bit too much. We want smaller blocks or concessions. One of our former ministers, Gabriel Tokush, he came out with a ministerial sort of order or something like that, up to 400 square kilometers. The company should get only 400 square kilometers because from experience, from my personal experience, that will take 1 to 1.5 years to complete the surface work and then even to start drilling. So that when you drill, if you get the mineral, because in reality, not all exploration companies will start work will end up in mining. No, some of them will fail for several reasons. So that when a company works on 400 square kilometers, 2 years, 3 years, if it fails, it moves and so on, this and that. We want the results quickly. We cannot wait all that. For example, the mining law, which you will try to modify, it says the exploration period is 5 years. Then to be renewed by another 5 years. Second renewal of 5 years, it means 15 years working without starting producing. Are you ready to wait for that? No, it is not. It's too much. So we say the period should be cut down to 3 years, the area to be cut down to 400 square kilometers, so that the results come out quickly. That's my contribution, which actually is there in the records. So I hope the coming generations, the president and the secretary, as I said, we work together. He knows my mentality and so on. And as I said, 3 out of 5 director generals here, my former students, they know my mentality. Yeah.
Dr. Andu Ezbon, thank you so much for your time. We
Okay.
really appreciate it.
Yeah.